Aloha, welcome to the panel, Keola Chan, Perpetuating Wellness for All. And we have such a wonderful panel up here. They almost gave me a heart attack today, because at 10 o'clock we had only Uncle Earl here. And so we were hoping that everybody else would come. We've been scrambling. So we have 5 wonderful people today on our panel. Dr. Kimo Alameda is the director for the Office of Health Equity within the Hawaii Department of Health. His role within the department is to serve as a consultant and trainer for all matters regarding health equity, cultural competency, and diversity in the workplace. Our second panelist is Keoki Baclayon. Keoki is a lecturer for the University of Hawaii at Mānoa, Kamakakūokalani Center for Hawaiian Studies. He teaches the art and basic tenets of la'au lapa'au, Hawaiian medicinal herbs, and the application of a Hawaiian perspective on healing for the betterment of all people. Our third panelist is Keola Chan. He is the executive director of Kaponui, the executive director of Kane Foundation for the advancement of Native Hawaiian males. Under his leadership, Kane is committed to reestablishing the traditional constructs of the hale mua, or men's house, within our communities to support the development and education of Hawaiian men. Our next panelist is Uncle Earl Kawa'a. He is a native of Moloka'i, and he is the son of 2 mahi'ai kalo farmers from Halawa, Moloka'i. After moving to Oahu, Earl gained his BA from Hawaii Pacific University and continued on to get his master's in social work from the University of Hawaii, Mānoa. Earl has been a keynote speaker and has presented on many different topics which service the Hawaiian community, such as ho'oponopono, culture in therapy, health and wellness, as well as education. Earl works with kupuna, parents, and children in the community to prepare children for school readiness and provide a strong foundation in Hawaiian culture. I don't know why they have the lady last, but Dr. Claren Kealoha-Beaudet is the Behavioral Health Director of Keheleaulani-A, which is a Native Hawaiian health program. She is responsible for the program advancement, community partnerships, and collaborations, as well as the clinical mental health component of the program's integrated primary health care clinic. So I give you these 5 wonderful people, and I'm going to tell you the 4 questions that I will be asking them. Number 1, share about yourself and your passion for your practice. Number 2, how does your practice support wellness? Number 3, how might your practice be brought into the classroom to support wellness for our haumana? And the last one, what are your hopes and dreams for Olopono as a means to strengthening our haumana, their family, their schools, and community? And we're just going to give everybody a couple minutes to do each one. And if you have questions, we'll keep them for the end, so you can ask questions at the end, if that's okay. Okay, so first of all, we'll start with Uncle Earl. Share about yourself and your passion for your practice.
I get to go first?
You get to go first.
I get to go first. Okay, I get to go first. He mana o ke no na po e kupuna. Mamua ka ho makano o ke kahi mau haiana me o ko pau make au e ho laka ia o ko pau no ka ike ana no na po e kupuna. What did I just say? Maybe I'll ask brother, but I'll tell you that. The first thing that we need to do, at least for me, is that I feel that my information is so important and that some of you way in the back might fall asleep. So when I'm finished with this piece, I'm going to tell you a story about what I'm trying to lead up to. They said, if you want to know how to make rain fall across the street on that big tall building, you all need to be in a place where you can hear it, because for the next 20 minutes, I will be speaking in a whisper. You got 20 seconds to do it. A'ole he mana o no kawa'a ke la. He mana o ke la no na po e kupuna. What I'm telling you is the way of our ancestors. That if you want the information that we're going to be talking about, you need to find another place to sit in. It is also based on a Hawaiian cultural educational practice. Before you even begin to talk on a subject, you need to ho'olakalaka. Ho'olakalaka means to calm the brain. So those who are sitting far out, more likely the brain is far out. I didn't want to have to go there. I didn't want to have to go there, but I'm prodding you to do that. When you take your positions close to us, that means you value us as presenters. You're valuing us. But as an educator, we need to do this all the time, every time, whenever we teach. The principle, again, is ho'olakalaka. A youngster woke up early this morning, and he heard his father say, "Where the hell is my breakfast?" To the mother. Where is this child's brain at? Not on school, not on school, not on what he has to do. He's thinking about the words that his father said to his mother before he walked out. Will that child learn the lesson today? No. Won't learn. I'm talking to you as professionals. And in my talking to you as professionals, I am hard. I mean, I'm very direct. And I expect you to be direct with me also. This is not a, at least for me, this is not a remedial class. How are we going to teach if our cup is half full? How do you teach? Hawaiians were reading at 97%, 8 years after the arrival of the missionaries. 97%. It is not by accident. It is not by accident. How did we do that? It's a long story. What I want to do is that I'm priming you for what we're going to be talking about. A youngster also got bullied on the way because somebody else wanted his quarter. So the child ready to study? No. You know, our minds are all over the place. No matter what the topic is, you must calm the brain. You must calm the brain. Only then will the lesson be important. And I say that not as kawa'a. I say that as a kawa'a, as the deliverer of message from the cultural perspective. It is not mine. It is ours. Ho'olakalaka is our concept. So we have information in which we want to talk about on health. But we don't want anyone walking out there and after you finish, what was it like? And said, well, if it's well, it means you didn't get it. Saul Alinsky says that when I'm finished with my presentation, I want you to have one of two perspectives. You either like what I say or you don't like what I say. If you're on the road, if you're on the fence, that means you got nothing. If you're on the fence, you got nothing. So when we're finished with the class, say well, you like it or you don't like it. That's my opening statement.
Thank you. Hard act to follow.
Is it working? Oh, it is. Aloha, I'm Dr. Keola-Beaudet, born and raised in Honoka'a. In the year 2011, I was asked by North Hawaii Community Hospital to start a Native Hawaiian health clinic. And they had absolutely no idea what a Native Hawaiian health clinic would entail. They were more interested in finding ways to get our Native Hawaiians to stop using our emergency department as a primary care clinic. So, having that information and learning more about Native Hawaiian health disparities, which actually put our Native Hawaiians in the same population category as third world countries in regard to cardiovascular disease, diabetes, obesity. Saw it as my kuleana to start a program that would help to address some of those health disparities, and it's been a privilege and an honor to do so.
Okay, you want to go?
Oh, hiki no. Aloha kākou. My name is Keoki. I'm from Kauhale, originally from Kilauea. Any of you have been over there? I teach la'au lapa'au, and I've been doing this in the university system since 2007, 2008, around there. I have noticed that a lot of our people, kanaka maoli, come to the university not only to learn, but to find answers. They come there because they cannot find the answers in their communities, or if their answers are in the communities, they don't have the know-how how to implement it and how to get there. One of the issues the primary issue that I deal with is health. Health is such an important thing because you can neither dance hula, practice ho'okele, mahi'ai. You can do nothing unless you have your health. So a lot of these students make it a point to better their health during the time that I have with them. 1985 was a very important time. If you remember, the Eola Mau report came out by one of our nonprofit organizations, and many of you either participated or witnessed its unfolding and its revelation on the current status of Native Hawaiians. Several years later, 1988, because of that very report, and as much as our brothers and sisters went out and found out the status of Native Hawaiians, 1988 brought about the Native Hawaiian Health Commission Act. Two very important reports, because it really set in motion a lot of thinking tanks, a lot of groups, considering, hey, what's the health status of our halau? What's the health status of tutu and auntie and uncle? What's the health status of our teachers and all of our kumu, these people who we value so much? Okay. These two important events in our very recent history, their value is still applicable today, and we are a result. All of you are a result of that. Okay, so my passion is to always help us to remember what our kupuna have done, and to perpetuate health through the practice of la'au lapa'au, using the herbs, because we not only need educators in every home, we need a healer in every home. You, oe, oko, kako apau, need to be a healer, not only in words and olelo, but through our actions. We need to be healers in knowing the herbs, the la'au. We need to know the aspects of ho'oponopono, because the system works. It's based on the values of our people, and it has a purpose, it has a function, it has a meaning. Okay? And with these things, we can help heal our communities.
Keola?
Velina, I was born and raised in Papukolea, and my interest that became my passion started by accident, or I guess you could say nothing happens as an accident, but I found myself going into the fields of Mauliolao, traditional healing practices. I had an interest, particularly because my wife at that time was having our first child, and having some kind of skills to malama her at that time, I found myself having really nothing to pull from. And I started finding a path where I was getting involved in going to multiple classes to learn from different community people that were willing to share on lomi, la'au, ho'oponopono, and I took advantage of those opportunities. And at that time, there were a lot of my peers, as well as some of the kupuna, who had expressed that it felt good to come together with all these different skill sets. And so at that time, I was asked to help put together a group, which we went by Hui Mauliola, a group of Native practitioners. And within that Hui, within that group, that's where we found strength to support each other, to discuss challenges, and to educate each other on some of the historical pieces that our kupuna had established. And that's really where I think my passion really began as I looked at our kupuna, the models that they set up, the society that they were able to build, it was very, it was very integrated and very supportive of the family unit and the community, and the overall lahui was healthy because of the beliefs that they had and the structures that were in place. And so it was at that time I really started to see that that's, for me, I felt like that's where the answers were, was for us to begin to look back. And how do we begin to bring some of those traditions forward, but also don't disregard what is present today and take the very best of the both sides. It was around that time I met Kamana'opono Crab, and we became good friends. And the kind of work that I'm doing today is really beneficial because of those individuals, as well as Earl Kawa'a here on the panel, that kind of mentored, educated, and tempered some parts of me. And I saw how that model of really strong men in our community helped to continue to build where I'm now as the executive director of Ahakane. It was because of a core group of individuals that took the time to mentor and to share the direction. And the opportunities that they afforded me was to be able to really look at health. Previously, I worked at the Office of Hawaiian Affairs in the research department, looking at health, but in particular, how do we begin to reestablish traditional healing practices in our community again? And so it afforded me that time to look at where we are and how do we get to a place where Mauleola can once again thrive and be integrated into, it's not so much integrated, but more an opportunity for our community members to have a choice, because that's where I feel we need. Our people need to be able to have a choice when they go into ER, into the hospitals again, that they have a choice to either go to see a psychologist or a ho'oponopono practitioner. And to me, that's where I would love to see our people have that choice again. Yeah.
Mahalo. Kimo?
Aloha. You know, I'm sitting here listening to Uncle and Keola and Keoki and Claren, and I'm thinking, on this panel, Uncle Earl, that's a living treasure.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, when we think about our haumana, especially the men, I think if we can have a legendary life like that and end up with that kind of wellness and wit and vitality, that's the outcome. So we aspire to you, Uncle Earl. You know, because ultimately we need to we need role models for our kids to emulate, and role models like that is what I need. You know, I still makua, so still working towards that, still a work in progress. But in terms of my path, you know, I became a counselor because I thought that's where I could make the biggest change in the schools, because I was a kid who needed the counselor plenty of times, and then I felt that maybe that I worked for 2 years, and I thought, you know, it's the teachers, that's where the problems there. So I told myself I'm gonna be a teacher then. So I went to the RISE class, and I became a special education teacher for a good year, and that was enough. And then I thought, you know what, maybe I don't know enough. So I went back to my advisor and I said, you know, is there any local psychologists out in the field? You know, Hawaiian, that would be ideal. But local, I settled for local. And he said, why gotta be local? I said, these kids, there's full-on pidgin English speakers. You know, Lilimo Folaun, that's not Samoan, okay, that's pidgin. All right, Bombay uncle, you know. So I was looking for somebody that they can connect to, and he said, why you not go be that psychologist or go be that person? So I went to school, and I didn't really, I had conflict. I didn't want to get into psychology because for the first year, they was telling me that your job is to work with sick people who live in a normal system. And deep down inside me, I felt like, wait a minute. So, because I always felt like everybody I work with are normal people coping in one sick system. So I was at odds already with my profession. So then my sister was getting her degree in social work. And she was telling me, yeah, we get the social work perspective. We get the family perspective. You guys psychologists, you guys get the individual, pathological, medical model perspective. She go, that, she would always say. And you know, she right. Because when I ask my colleagues, where is health? Some of my psychiatrists, they say, it's in your brain. So I say, well, if it's in your brain, then what kind of interventions are you going to use then for these kids who get ADHD? Only medication. Then I asked my sister, who's social worker, I said, sister, where is health? She says, it's in the community. I said, oh, that's where health. Well, I asked my bishop, where is health? He says, it's in the Keoku'a. That's where that's spirituality. So depending how we define health will result our intervention. And so I'm a continual work in progress. Now I work for the Department of Health. I'm the director of the Office of Health Equity, the same office that Claire Hughes was trying to manage back then. And the same roadblocks she running in, the same roadblocks I running in. We cannot just tell our Hawaiians to just eat healthy and go exercise. Because the health choices that our people make really depend on the health choices they have. And not all our communities get the same health choices. So I'm at the Department of Health trying to promote this idea of looking at our people equally, and so far it's been a challenge, but I think that's my passion.
Mahalo. Why don't we just continue with you, Kimo? How does your practice support wellness?
Well, they just came out with that, the hospitals now with Obamacare, they had to do an assessment of all of their intakes, and come to find out, over 5,000 intakes to the hospital is stress-related. Mental health, right? And then second is 2,000 something was like heart disease, heart attack, So wow, double. Majority of all our initial visits to the hospital is stress-related or mental health-related. So, so that tells me something about education. No matter how smart you, okay? Okay. If you cannot figure out how to deal with life stressors, if you cannot figure out how to manage the day-to-day, how to cope with relationships, and how to manage your own internal drives, and then you're gonna be in trouble. You're gonna be one of the 5,000 that is going to the hospital. So I just love my practice because the more research, the more people are finding that, if you can manage your mental health, spiritual health, that's the best intelligence I think that you can ever have. So, and that's my profession. So I think it contributes everything to wellness.
Okay, Claren. At our practice at Keheleaulani, we run a integrated primary health care model. So what we do is we have the medical doctor primary health care doctor, does your physical health. And on the tail end of your visit, you will get a visit from one of us, the behavioral health. There's 2 clinical psychologists that work in our Native Hawaiian Health Clinic. And automatically, you will pay a visit with one of us. And we focus more on prevention. So not so much about acute disease, but finding out more about your family life, what's going on in your ohana, how is the relationships within your families. And we also do referrals to la'au. So we are currently looking for some funding through OHA, where we can actually pay a la'au practitioner to come in and provide service to our Native Hawaiian community if they choose la'au instead of regular modern medical medicine. In addition, we're looking to also find healthcare coverage that can pay for lomi or other types of massage for those that are not too interested in going to PT, OT, but just rather look to traditional medicines. We also run a Office of Hawaiian Affairs prevention program, diabetes and obesity. So as long as you're Native Hawaiian and you come into our clinic, we do a 5 intervention program. Our goal is to reduce BMI by 10%, so body mass index. And the interventions are mandatory behavioral health, and everybody says, why, how come? How come you gotta go see one psychologist if you wanna reduce body mass index? Well, what we know is that some of our behaviors are not necessarily conducive to healthy eating, yeah? So we try and address that. We have automatic, each person that comes in gets a personal trainer at Five Mountain Fitness in Waimea. So they get 12 sessions of exercise. They also meet with a dietitian. The dietitian will go to your hale and look inside your cupboards and throw away all your canned spam. Yeah. And also looking to other methods of carbohydrates besides rice, yeah. So how do we support wellness? That's just the beginning. We hope, we've been in operation for 2 years. We're hoping to thrive in 10, but it's baby steps.
Okay. Dr. Earl, would you like to go?
Sure. I have trouble with the word wellness
Okay.
because I don't know what it means. I don't know what it means. How many of you are teachers in the audience? You can raise a hand. How many of you are psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers? I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that. So when I think about the word wellness, is that it's too vague. I don't know what you're talking about. But since this is a conference that's sponsored by Kamehameha Schools, so I think that the point that we're talking about is educational wellness. These two come from a clinic setting, so there's allopathic health. So my question for them is that where is the Hawaiian part, the Mauleola part, with regards to their wellness? And how is it that you do in your practice that you're able to bridge for our families the wellness from the Western, mediation, right? Families don't get together in one community and, okay, come together, we're going to have mediation. Where is Ho'oponopono in that? In a clinic setting, so the clinic sets it up. We all work in an institution that defines wellness for us. So we're kind of boxed in. I don't like that. But it's part of my personality anyway. It's in my birthday anyway as well. Besides, it's fun. It's to make trouble. Yeah, exactly. But this making trouble is about pushing. I'm here to talk about pushing the limits of wellness, pushing the limit for wellness. And that if we want our families to be well, we can look at mental health and wellness. We can look at educational health and wellness. We can look at economic development in wellness. We can look at wellness from wherever we're at, but what hasn't been defined for me over here is that what area do you want us to focus in on, or are we left to try and just go all over the place? So when the families live, they're huikau because we're not succinct. Okay. Yeah, so I think we should talk about health from a cultural perspective and a Western perspective. The allopathic, which is where both of you operate from a clinic setting, and also from the Mauli, which is these two individuals. Not to say that you don't have allopathic is a medical model. It's a medical model, and you have the Mauli side. How is it? What does Western say, and what does Hawaiian say? I just got back from a conference in D.C. It's a folk festival conference. Here's what I walked away with from that conference: is that Hawaiian native language will continue to be pursued until it's dead. The system is set up to kill it. Yeah, is that wellness? No, it's not wellness. It cannot be wellness. The systems that run the country is set up to kill it. It's set up to kill it. That's dangerous. That's very, very dangerous. Secondly, we at Kamehameha Schools and all of us who teach, we want our children to be able to go deep in their understanding. I traveled 10 hours on a plane to find out that the answer that I was looking for is right at home. And the confirmation is, of the entire group that I was with from Hawaii, during the 10 days that we were there, their primary language was Hawaiian, all the time, right down to the 5 years old. If we want to go deep with regards to wellness, we've got to go there. We cannot placate.
Yes.
We cannot. It has to be something. They said, go to the next question. It's a haumana, number 3. Yeah, the wellness of the haumana. The haumana for me is not the student. Or the student is not the child.
Right.
It's a parent. It's the parent. We've got to go there. So we've got to be able to teach children, but we've also got to be able to teach parents as well. So our skills must be no less than excellent. No less than excellent. All of us. How do you teach from a half cup? So I've taken on, people say, oh, Kawa'a, he's a difficult guy, he's a difficult guy. But here's my thing to my being difficult. I never tear down a wall so I can sit on a pile of rock. Yeah? It's an olelo no iau. I don't tear down a wall so I can sit on a pile of rock. I tear it down so I can rebuild it again. That's what wellness is about. It's about rebuilding. And the more refined we are in our ability, and that refinement, I'm not talking about Kawa'a style, refinement with regard from a cultural perspective. If we're saying this is cultural, we've got to verify the olelo no iau that speaks to that point that we are driving about being culturally correct. If we cannot verify that, then it becomes Kawa'a style, and it becomes a model. It's my model, it's my form, and it may be my instinct. I'm not okay with that. I'm only okay if you say, this is the way the Hawaiians do it, and you have to verify it. When we write our thesis, we are asked we make a statement, and we have to do a citation where we get it from. Why should it be any different for us when we teach our children? It shouldn't be any different. The standard should be the same. If we say this is Hawaiian, then you have to be able to verify it. So when I say for all of you to come forward, because it's a Hawaiian methodology, I gave you the methodology. It's called ho'olaka. It's ho'olaka. It's not mine, it's ours. It's not ours. So wellness is a big question, but because primarily the people here, but our educators, maybe colleagues, we need to talk about wellness from an education perspective. Mm-hmm. What does it mean when we're in the classroom, when we come to it? A teacher said, I'm having trouble with a youngster who sasses me in class. I said, are you? He said, yes, I'm insulted. I said, maybe you should see a psychiatrist. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You should see her because her emotions was injured. The emotions was injured. Emotion was injured. So if you have difficulty with someone or your students being strong and you feel hurt about it, maybe you need to see a psychiatrist. Maybe you need help in that area. Because I see that as a golden thread. As a golden thread. I'm not threatened by it. I'm not threatened by anyone challenging me. As a matter of fact, I encourage it. I encourage you to challenge me. Because when you decide to challenge me, I'm going to say, this is a debate. Decide who wins, not on who you like, but who has the best info. See the thinking? That's wellness. Mm-hmm. That's wellness. That's wellness. So it'll be like this. I was in Waianae, I did a class. The young boy puts his poi board down on the ground, and he stands on the board. Stands on the poi board. It's not a poi board, a slab. And the dad pulls his arm back and gives 2 pounds right into the chest, the son of the dad. Pop. I saw the blow coming, and I turned away, and I said to myself, this is where ʻike comes in as professionals. I didn't want that dad to see me looking at him. But I saw the motion, and I knew where it was going to end, and I know who was going to be the beneficiary of that. I changed my lecture. I changed it. That's what we do as professionals. We have a great body of knowledge, and we can move it anywhere we want to at any point in time. If we don't have that, we need more professional development, and that's the role of the department or the institution or even your boss to do that. So this dad, I noticed on his board, I'm going to make the story short and fast because I know it's taking time, but it's a good story, right? Stay with me. It's going to be good. I saw on his board that he made a mistake because the week before I corrected his board. He's a tough man. It's a hard man. He shows all the signs of having had a very, very, very difficult, challenging beginning. He wears it on his shoulder. He wears it in his walk. It's in his eyes. It's in everything. That's called assessment. If you're in social work, that's called assessment. If you're in psychiatry, it's called a diagnosis. If you're a teacher, it's called an observation. See where I'm going with how I'm presenting? That's giving you very precise kinds of information so you can take this into your classes. So, fast forward in the story. I go to the board and I see the mistake, and the dad says, my wife did that cut. My wife made this cut. He went on to the second line and he says, yeah, my children made that cut. I looked at it. I'm slipping now into social work. I'm slipping into psychiatry. I looked at the board and I said, I wanted to look at him, and the Western side would have told me to look at him in the eye. I didn't. I chose to be like a Hawaiian. I said, yeah. It's a nice stroke. It's a nice, clean stroke. It is not the stroke of a woman. It is the stroke of a powerful man. It is not the stroke of a child, because it's not clean enough. It's a stroke of a man with a lot of energy. See, that energy was referring to this here. That's where I was going. And then I said to him, this is a stroke from a very powerful man who likes to have things his way, sometimes, all the time, every day. He dropped his head. I caught him, called Adlerian response reflex. I caught him. And I said, this is your mistake. He said, yeah. That year would have taken me 1 year in therapy. Would have taken me 1 year to get to that. I got it on a 4th class. I broke him. I say to you, I broke him as a professional. Yeah, this is not a power term, as a professional. And then here comes the Hawaiian finishing line. And I said Hawaiian because I am Hawaiian. It's a Hawaiian finishing line. It's not okay for a man to blame his wife for his mistakes. It is not okay for a man to blame his son for his mistake. He dropped his head even further. The dropping of the head means that he got it. He got it. We're interested as professors is to try and talk and share with you the kinds of gems that you can leave here with. So when you're in a classroom setting, you can operate. You can operate. And then you operate from an intellectual, from a cultural, that you're sound, yeah, and based on enough.
That's good. Hard act to follow.
Don't follow the act, do your
Okay.
own show.
I shall. Mahalo. In 2000, Levon Ammon Ohai from Kauai, from Kapa'au originally, Kahuna La'au Lapa'au, left the traditional circle of La'au Lapa'au from his Ohana, and went over to the university, Kamakakūokalani Center for Hawaiian Studies, and opened up his knowledge, like officially within the university system, to teach La'au Lapa'au. Many wonderful students, learned from him, and some interesting things happened. And one of those things was in sitting down and talking story with him. Keoki, it's good that that we teach La'au Lapa'au here at the university, but gosh, we gotta get out. What he meant by that was too much classroom, too many seats, using PowerPoint. We're in the classroom. We're not out where we learn naturally, more easily, in the outdoors, where the original knowledge actually developed. Are we limiting ourselves by limiting the potential knowledge that our students can learn by staying in the classroom? Lo'ikane Vai is a wonderful addition to the Hawaiian Studies program because you have Uncle Hiapo over there. This is such a wonderful example because you have the lo'i there, you have Kane Vai there. And we always see throughout the year Kamehameha students coming down to the lo'i to learn about the culture, to get their feet dirty. They're not learning this in storybooks or anything like that. They're learning through firsthand experience. Yeah. They're becoming the personal witnesses of what it is to acquire ʻike and to acquire knowledge for themselves, so that they can take it back home and they can teach their fellow siblings. Oh, when you get big like me, you can come with me and we can go in the lo'i, right? I have four children. My oldest is 7. No, Aole, she just turned 8. And I always take her wherever I can. If I go mountains, if I'm in the lo'i, if we go fishing, go diving, swimming, whatever. And the purpose for doing that, purpose, function, and meaning, right, is so that she can see how it is done, so she can see when it is done. She can see my discrimination, whether or not we should go this way or that way, or the weather is good, the weather is not good, or there's people here, or don't say this, don't say that. Okay, it's because through example. And I learned that from my kupuna, from my father, from my mother, from my community, from my kumu, and from my teachers. Yeah. That if you want to pass these things along, we should be that example. We should actually do it, and include those who we want to share it with, have them be with us. And so, in bringing La'aulapa'au to the university, it presented that challenge to Ohai, and then also to myself. And every class that I'm able to bring the students outside, I do that. One of my favorite places to take them is up to the Pali. Pali is beautiful, and each semester we always make it a point to go out there to study the La'au, to study, as we refer to them, to study the warriors. Because it's these warriors, they, through their own volition, through their own strength, their own mana, they survive the elements. And we use this ability to survive as a metaphor for our own lives, that we can apply and that we can use as strength, to help us. One of the plants that we use and that we talk about is the a'ali'i, kumakani, yeah? So the a'ali'i is a plant that can live off of the face of a rock, and its roots grip onto the rock, and it finds any kind of little crevice it can, and the a'a, it just digs deep down inside. No matter what, no matter how strong the wind blows, a'ali'i is still going to be there because it can resist it. It bends with the wind, almost like how we need to bend sometimes and not be so stiff and so stubborn. Okay, humility was a very big part of our culture, and even as kumu, we can be stiff and rigid. We can say the rule book say this. We have to stay in the classroom, or we have to follow this plan. We forget that we need to be flexible, like how Uncle was saying. I got to change my lesson plan. I know what I'm going to teach. This rigidness can be our own downfall. All right. And the reason why, as teachers, as kumu, as professionals, it's important to be this flexible, is because you value the lives that you're taking care of. You have aloha for them. Yeah. Cultivating this aloha will allow you to be humble, allow you to be flexible, will provide you that inspiration that akua will give you in the moment that you need it. La'aulapa'au, I don't limit it to just herbs. I don't limit it to just, here is a plant, here's the a'ali'i, here's kuali'awa, here's pohuehue, here's this and here's that, a'ole. Okay. But la'aulapa'au transcends all of that. All those, the stigma that is just, he's an herbalist, he studies plants. No. Okay. We discuss akua, the spirituality, and about how how important it is for a person to be close to akua. Okay. We discuss the relationships with their ohana, with their family, with their spouse. Okay. We discuss their activities at work, whether they're pono or not. In fact, it goes into every aspect of their life. What many of the students take away from this practice of la'aulapa'au that Levan Ohai brought, and I always tell the students this, that I don't care what you take away from the class, but I would like you to remember that to always recognize a kua and make a kua first. And the other thing is, if you remember nothing else, is to remember the 7 laws of health. The 7 laws of health, Ohai uniquely laid it out, addresses many of these things that if any of us practice, we'll be a lot better off than had we not practiced, some of these things. All of this is, of course, pointing toward being pono. Proper eating, sleeping, exercise, cleansing. Even the body needs to be cleansed. Yeah, if you spend 32 years or 50 years just eating hamburger, taco meat, and fried this and fried that, when have you ever cleansed the inside? Yeah. So eating, sleeping, exercise, cleansing. And the other aspects of are just more like the psyche, the emotional health of a person. Meditation, pondering, and pule. The meditation talks about what Uncle had talked about, calming your mind. Because how can a troubled, if you can relate your mind to a troubled waters, or where it's very, very choppy, okay, you can't see or you can't learn what is below, because it's all choppy. But for us to calm ourselves, then we can see the deep things. Yeah. But
Thank you.
mahalo. Yeah. Okay. Come back.
In 2006, Ahakane put on our first conference. To be honest, that was going to be the first and last conference. It was a challenge that was put forth by a group of females that had come to Kamana'o and had asked them, when you look at the disparities in our community with our Hawaiian men, they need help. And so the conference was an answer to it, and that was going to be it. Out of the evaluations that came out of that conference, a lot of the men were sharing, cannot stop. More importantly, this was great that I came here and I got inspired, but when I go home to Hana, to Keokaha, who do I see? Who's going to continue to share with me this ʻike, this knowledge? And we didn't have an answer, and we never thought about giving an answer. We continued to have conferences with the goal of just inspiring men and with the voice of go home and figure it out. Do it. You guys can do it. Be men, step up to the plate and do it. What we realized is that a lot of our men need more help than that, than just a nice pat on the back. And so we were continuously being asked by a Hawaiian organization at that time to help their organization, because through the 15 years that this trustee was at the helm, there was not really significant changes that were taking place for their boys. And so it was a hard time for us at Ahakane, because we struggled with where do we want to put we're only one organization, and where do we put our focus on? Do we put it in the pa'ahau? Do we put it in Hawaiian men? And when you look at the numbers that we're seeing in colleges, and this goes across the nation, like a 3-to-1 male to female ratio, is that somewhere that we want to focus on? And we struggled with that for a good time. And when the trustees came to us and said, look, there's some really, in this particular community, there was a number of suicides that took place with young boys. And this is right up your guys' alley. You guys need to figure out something. And so as Ahakane, we met and we continued to work. Okay, I want to do it in the pa'ahau, I want to do it in the universities. And as I listened to them, what came through was and the voice and the research that was being done at that time when I was at OHA in health, it was really about space and silos. I really came to realize that's a huge challenge for us as a people. And especially for our Hawaiian men, is space and silos, is that when you look at a lot of other ethnicities, they have spaces to gather. They have hongwanjis, they have their little Chinatown and their little cultural centers that they can gather and practice their culture and their languages. But when you look into our communities, we have them. With Kamehameha Schools, Keheleaulani-A Trust, we have them. But they're working in silos where they have a targeted audience, and that's the solution right there. And what we came to the realization with Ahakane is that we gotta look broader, and we gotta look at those spaces and maximize those spaces, that we can't do it alone anymore. With the multiple challenges we have on the federal level with funding, we have to enable our communities to answer this call and help them get to that space. And it was about, for us, Ahakane, is going and helping our communities create that space. And like Earl was sharing earlier, is about, we define what wellness, we define what health is to us. And we do it on a community level. And so for our Hawaiian men, what we realized was that they needed help in their communities to establish that space. And that space is crucial, because when you think about our kids, when you think about a kid who wakes up in the morning, from the time he wakes up to the time he goes to sleep, he is surrounded by a majority of his peers. When he goes to class, he sits in a classroom with 20, 30, and one teacher. When he plays sports, if he plays sports, something positive, it's still the same, 30 to 1. If it's not positive, he's in a gang. Yeah? And so our kids, they continuously have this surrounding, Tamiko Lukukui calls it the akule phase. They like to be in that large group mentality. They're not confident enough to swim alone as a Mānoa yet. And so they think as a group, they work as a group, and rarely are they in a space where they are tempered. And I say tempered is because that space does not exist in our communities. The space where you heard Uncle Earl talk about giving that pa'i to that kane. Our kane, on the other hand, they don't have a space. When they go to work and they come home, they're either gonna, if they play with basketball, some sports, they play with guys their age. There's no interaction with younger kids. There's no modeling that's happening. Or they're hanging out in the garage with the boys, and again, no interaction with younger generation. No mentoring, no role modeling is taking place. And so that's why for us at Ahakane, we felt that helping, collaborating with these organizations to identify spaces in communities and helping the community, inspiring them, using the model that we had at Ahakane, using that model in the communities to inspire those men in the community to come into these spaces and begin to interact with intergeneration, like from keiki all the way up to kupuna. And what I'm realizing in this work that we're doing at Ahakane is that kupuna role is crucial. We often we can't figure out what to do with our kupuna nowadays. They put them in a home, or they're in somewhere in the back of our house, but we don't know what to do. And so I realized that creating a space where men can gather and share their struggle, share their experience, support each other. Men need that. Boys need that. Boys need to look up to older men and for guidance, for role modeling. And if they're not, they're going to find it in other places. And our kupuna are the valuable pieces because to the men, the kupuna are the role models that, wow, he made it. If he can do it, I can do it. The kupuna can say stuff to the child that their own father says it the same message is going to be taken a totally different way. And so when we look at like trying to educate and what is the answer, what we're realizing is that we've tried many answers from a different perspective. It's about time we look at our cultural practices, our cultural models that existed, and look to them. And when you look on a national, international level, indigenous peoples across the world had spaces for men to gather where inspiration and knowledge was taught, and mentoring took place, and education. And that is important because men need to have that space. And I don't mean to exclude the females, but I can't speak from that perspective. At the same time, I'm reminded by Earl Kawa'a that it's really about a Kauhale model. Is that what we're talking about? Is that for a fully healthy community, it takes a multi-pronged approach. And the hale mua is just the first of it. Establishing those spaces, sharing with them in the cultural depth and richnesses is really the palu for us. It's not really what we're looking for. At Ahakane, what brought guys to come to the conference was, carving the board, doing palua, warriors throwing spears. That's what got guys to come. But the real education took place, really what Earl shared earlier. Yeah, it got guys to come that wanted to do a papaku'iai, but the education is the words, is the discussion, is that camaraderie that happens, and that validation of like, right, you shouldn't hit your wife, you shouldn't hit your kids. How do I not do that then? Share with me how you do it. And our boys need role models because we know this, that I know this personally as a parent myself. I can't be everything my son wants. I do what I do, and I do it the best to my ability. But when my son comes to me and say, Dad, I'm interested in engineering, I have no clue what that stuff is. But when I'm around a group of men that is supported, like the hale mua, I can say, you know what, go look to that uncle over there. Or you like learn how to carve, go see that uncle over here. And so I don't have to carry that full-on burden. And that's the direction Ahakane is going, is that it's in the collective group that health and wellness for us, it's not the total answer, but it begins to reestablish these spaces that we can figure out. We design, as Kanaka, as Hawaiians, we design where we want to go as a community, and we decide how health and wellness should start to look. And we do that as a people. And as an individual, that's really our data that we collect at Ahakane, which that we put a heavy emphasis on. A lot of our men share that I'm having a hard time doing it by myself. This was great to get together and feel this, to hear guys share how they got out of drugs, how they made it out of that lifestyle. I need that. I need it regularly. And so that's why for us, we're moving into really about reestablishing community of the hale mua model. Yeah.
Thank you. We took an hour for the first two questions, and we have half an hour left for the last two. So I need to ask everybody to be a little shorter so we can finish and have questions. Now, the next two questions, I think I might have to change question number 3, Uncle. I got to be flexible, because question number 3 is, how might your practice be brought into the classroom to support wellness for our hamana? And Keoki just told us we need to get them out of the classrooms. So the intent of the question actually is, how do we bring what you do to our students, whether it's inside or outside of the classroom? And it goes into our last question, and you may want to answer it together, and that is, what are your hopes and dreams for Olopono, or wellness, or whatever you want to define it as a means to strengthening our haumana, their family, their schools, and their communities? Anybody can go first. Who wants to go first?
Let me just say that I know you guys sitting in the audience and thinking, okay, so part of what you want to take back is I like knowing some of your teachers. I like knowing how to work with my Hawaiian kids in class so they can better connect, so they can get better grades, so they can be successful. Maybe some of you are counselors who are thinking, gee, I just like my Hawaiian kids not make trouble anymore. Maybe that's why I hear. So I'm making guesses on why you guys hear, but and so I'm going to speak towards those two guesses. Hopefully I'm correct. First of all, cultural-based education conference. So the first thing that our education got to realize is, because when I was at Department of Health, I tried to implement a culturally specific therapeutic model in my my boss from Houston, Texas said, oh, we cannot do anything Hawaiian specific because, we've got to serve everybody, and, right? And we cannot do anything culturally specific. And I said, well, we're already doing something culturally specific. And he says, what is that? I said, when somebody gets sick, they'll get on diagnosis, they got to see somebody they don't know, they get an assessment, that's culturally specific. He said, oh, I never thought of that. And I said, yeah, fish do not know they are wet. The first thing that our educational system got to realize is that we're already doing cultural-based education. The problem is, it's a foreign culture, if you will. It's the Western culture or the mainstream culture. Okay, that's the first thing that my hope is for the educators to realize, that we're already culture-based. Okay, it's just not the Hawaiian culture, that's all. But we're culture-based. Okay, it's the Western culture. The second thing is, I think teachers got to realize that, because we were there, I think we was all, we were educated. Somebody did a good job with us. My third grade tutor, can you please stand up, Auntie? So she was she taught me how to pronounce my R's, so that I can get up and give a presentation in DC without people saying, hey, what did he say again? So I get a little more falaun, but I get also, please, thank you, you betcha. All depends. I was in Nebraska for 5 years, everything was you betcha. So, so I think teachers like that, my father always said he's a plumber. He said, Kimo, I realize this, I cannot train them, I just gotta find them. What does that say about our teacher education programs? Maybe they should go out and find them. Might be hard. It's hard to teach somebody brand new stuff who wasn't raised with that kind of upbringing. Still can, I think, but maybe we should do better outreach in education. And then I went to Nebraska, and then I really realized what was my problem in school. I was misunderstood, because I spent 5 years in Nebraska getting my PhD, and I realized I was getting cultural shock, but I had to go away for that. I realized over there they say hello, we say how you. We know who you married to, who getting divorced, everything, right? They say sorry when it's their fault. We say sorry when it's our fault, your fault. We don't care whose fault. We're just sorry for the situation, right? Over there, they get to the point first, then they talk story. I was raised, I talk story first, then I get to the point, no matter how long it takes, right? They shake hands, firm handshake as a sign of strength and respect. I was raised shake hands, soft handshake as a sign of respect and humility. I was in a cultural shock. I wanted to come home. Told my mom, I'll come home already. She said, why? I feel different over here. I miss home. Talk about rice. I had to go 1 hour for find rice. They only eat potatoes. Then I started to realize what our kids go through. This is what I was going through at St. Joseph Elementary, at Wai'ike. I went to all kinds of schools. I ended up at Lahaina Luna because I was so kolohe. That's why people laugh at me. You're a psychologist. How you needed one psychologist? But then I realized what I was going through. I was in a different world, So, American freedom of speech. You get something for say, just say, right? You get, in fact, on our syllabus says 10% for doing this. Oh. I wasn't raised like that. I was raised, if you get something for say, wait, you're going to be called upon. So how can our kids flourish in an educational system that is foreign to them? It's tough. So, so that's the kind of stuff I offer you guys, is that, an awareness that our kids different. They're raised different, but there are plenty of similarities too, because there's, there's a quote that some of us are in some respects like everybody else, and that's true. But it goes, comma, also some of us are in some respects like some other people. That's the cultural perspective. Hawaiians like Hawaiians, but then different islands may be different. So, and then the last perspective is, and also some of us are in some respects like nobody else. So how do you, as an educator, what side of the student is the Hawaiian? What side of the student is the universal like everybody else? And what side of the student is her individual self that might be unlike other Hawaiians? See, the big danger is in learning Hawaiian protocols is that you apply them across the board. Sometimes you miss the boat because this kid more Portuguese than Hawaiian now. What side are you working on? So I think the better we are in experience, the better we are at kind of that dance, every one of us like everybody else, like some other people, like nobody else, I think the better educator we become, because we know when to interject the Hawaiian side, when to interject the universal side. and when to interject, yeah, you're not like your mother and your father, you're different. Tell me about that differenceness. So you like pursue this and you like pursue that, but your parents said, no, you gotta pursue this because that's the Hawaiian way or whatever. But tell me what you feel. If we open like that, I think our kids are gonna be successful because we have an ability to go in and out. Because let's face it, man, we gotta go in and out of different worlds. And that's why I admire Uncle Earl, because he can go Washington and he can present an awesome presentation and they get it. And then he can go to a Hawaiian immersion program, Olelo o Hawaii, and the kids will get it. How do we make our students like that? Almost chameleons we gotta be. Sometimes I think we gotta be schizophrenic. Right? Because we gotta be, we gotta be one way. Like this morning, I catch the Enterprise bus. I go on the bus, I see my friend here, the bus. I say, hey, bus, how's it? How are you? I give him one of these. Long time no see, and then I sit down, I see my advisor, never see long time, Howley from the mainland. I go, oh, Dr. So-and-so, good to meet you. How was your day today? The guy driving look at me thinking, oh, this guy. Go in and out. We gotta go in and out. Our kids, it's tough to be a Hawaiian kid because you gotta go in and out of different contexts. You gotta be Howley a little bit. You gotta, if you're in a different culture, this the handshake, okay? If you're in church, maybe, this the handshake. If you're with the other kids, maybe it's this, the handshake. Where you develop those skills? In the education system, they don't teach that. I wish they would teach that, in addition to teaching how to cope with life stressors, right? So Keola mentioning this idea about ahakane, that maybe in the school system we can have a little ahakane or ahawahine, okay? Keoki mentioning maybe la'aulapa'au, maybe in the school system, maybe if we can interject this idea that health is more than just go see the doctor. Maybe health is outside, and maybe our students can all become healers. And of course, Uncle Earl is suggesting that we got to change who we are and the outlook, and we got to have high expectations for our kids. So, we're all presenting something different, but I think we're all saying the same thing, is that we all like our kids to be successful, whether they're Hawaiian or part Hawaiian or whatever. We like them have that chance, because education is one of the key determinants of health. That's something that if anything, the Department of Health came out with research, that's the best one. Yeah. They said that when you get on Pala, you get more options. When you get more options, then if you get on degree, you get a better job. You get a better job, you can decide where you like live. If you like live homestead, you can. If you like live up San Raza Estates or Hawaii Lower Ridge, you can too. But you need the kala for do that. So education does play a part in health across the board, and that's a universal research that we found. So it's good to make our kids smart. Smart in the way Western is defining them with the degrees and all.
Mahalo. You want to go?
Yeah.
Okay.
Taking on what Dr. Kimo said, I think one of the most interesting things that I find in working in a Western medicine environment is the concept of sustainability. It's such a new concept to everyone. Let's talk about sustainability. And every time I hear that, I think sustainability is ancient. That's what our kupuna did. We knew how to fish, we knew how to farm. Health was something that was a part of us because we were physical. We worked in the kalo fields, we were active people. So the concept of sustainability, as much as people like to refer to it as new age and new thought, it's not. Yeah, it is a return to who we once were. And I think that's the point as far as education is concerned, and teaching that in the classroom, that this concept, when my son comes home with the arrows, Mommy, we have to recycle. And I thought, that is ancestral knowledge. That is not new knowledge. That is something we're supposed to have in our DNA. Yeah, we already know this. So how is it that we teach our children to return to that? Did we lose it? I'm hoping not. I'm hoping not, yeah.
Mahalo. Anybody?
I choose to go last.
Okay. I choose to go next. Here is a term that I'd like you to remember, and it's Ho'i ka mana I loko.
Hoi ka mana I loko.
Aye. So this is exactly what Sister here was talking about. The sustainability. The sustainability of our DNA, of our culture, of our wellness, of everything that we know about Hawaiiana, about ourselves, our family, depends on you, depends on us. Ho'i, just like in Alo'i, you have the water coming back, right? Ho'i, or if you're telling somebody, Ho'i kahale, come back to the house. Ho'i, that term is returning. Ho'i ka mana. Mana can be defined in many different ways: energy, power, political power, economic. Could be the things that you have. Could be spiritual. Okay. In this case, I'd like you to remember it as education. Okay, education or knowledge, ʻike. Ho'i ka mana, ho'i ka ʻike, I loko. The I loko part refers to us. Returning it back to us. Ho'i ka mana I loko. Because if it is not I loko, then it is going to go iwaho. Yeah, it's going to go outside. If it goes outside, there is no replenishing or strengthening the roots. Okay? And in order to strengthen the roots, we need that ho'i. Ho'i ka mana I loko. That is what, if anything that I'd like to share with you at this point is that we need to especially pay special attention to our children, to each other, our colleagues, to each generation, and within our sphere of influence. Okay, ho'i that mana, that ʻike that you have, I loko, because by doing that, it's perpetual. Yeah. When one person isn't able to fulfill the needs, education-wise or health-wise, you have somebody else. Like I can depend on Brother Keola here to teach my children, or teach my students, or teach my fellow neighbor about the things of Ola, about Lomi, about whatever things that I'm absent in. This ho'i ka mana I loko, it talks about the halimua, it talks about going out into the lo'i, it talks about educating our fellow brothers and sisters, the lahui. The moment that we forget that the direction of travel where our mana should go, it begins to dissipate, right? Mana, like a river, should be constantly flowing. It should never be obstructed. Obstructions can come externally, and it can also come internally. We ourselves can be that same obstruction to that flow of ʻike, that flow of knowledge. And so always being mindful and being considerate of our own personal state, whether we're preventing those things from happening, is very important. I'm always reminded about this term, ho'i ka mana I loko, because I relate it to one of the olelo no ia, where it talks about ewe. So you have a'a, which is like the main taproot, but you have ewe, which is the smaller little rootlets, yeah, are just as important as providing strength and nutrients to the plant. And actually, you can tell the health of a plant to see if it's really healthy, by seeing if it has ewe. Now, a'ohe, if there isn't any, then the plant is already suffering, because it's utilizing all of its strength and energy and drawing only nutrients, only from the taproot, just so it could survive. Now, a'ohe, if there isn't any ewe, okay, then the plant can get sick. Kolono ka ewe ike ewe means that the rootlets crawl and they reach out together, and when it does that, it grabs onto soil, it intertwines with each other, and then pa'a. The plant is pa'a inside the soil. It is healthy, it is thriving. When we interact with each other, and all the different generations, we are the ewe, we are interacting, we are providing strength to the generations to come, to each other. Yeah. So This is my mana'o. I just want to share with you. Yeah, ho'i ka mana I loko, ke olu oko. Mahalo.
Keola.
For me, I think to bring it back into the classrooms, and what I would like to see is us reestablishing our beliefs, our cultural practices again, making those spaces ours, and we already are. I love when my kids come home and they gotta ask, like, Dad, what is our mo'oku au hau? To me, that's definitely the path of re-enlightenment and reestablishing those beliefs in mana. To me, that's an important belief system that is critical for us as a people to look at, to acknowledge those that have come before us, our ancestors, and how they continue to guide us into the future, and in embedding those beliefs and those relationships into our kids' daily lives, and it already is happening on across our pai'aina. As we continue to set that path, I think we will continue to see growth in our kids. And I do agree that having kids that are in some ways like one kupua, they can go one way, they change shape, go another way. I think that's very important. I see the benefit of that, of our people to be able to change, but also to support those that want to continue with the traditions. But it is that foundation that I believe that they can spring from into going off into other lands and making a life for themselves, is that they know where they come from. And I think those can be done by kumu, by family members, and we set the curriculum. We design what we're going to teach in those classes, and if we can base it off of the ʻike of kupuna, we have a good path that has already been set for us already. Yeah.
Culture-based education. Am I on? Yeah. Culture-based education is a nice modern term for us in the new teaching education world. It's an old idea. It's not new. Somebody should say, Kawa'a, give me the verification for that. Why don't you say that to me?
Kawa'a, give me the verification for that.
Good. That's how we should always think about it. When we say that it is culturally based, we should ask for the verification, and we should be comfortable asking each other for that verification, because that's how we learn it. And I think that's what the conference is about. It's about walking away with some solid information that you can apply tomorrow morning. This is, I'm still on Washington time yet. Yeah, tomorrow is work day. So culture-based education, it's also what's known to our ancestors. It's ho'okama'aina and become a kua'aina. Remember the term kua'aina was referred to as those individuals who live in the backwoods, the back country. You know, you're kind of embarrassed about them. But in this day and time, when you really look at that term, kua'aina, the kua'aina, in this day and time, these are the individual who knows the way of the practice of our ancestors, because they haven't lost it. And how do we know that they were kua'ainas when they come out of the woods? It's because they had pink socks and green pants and maybe a cap or something like that. The color code was kind of all mixed up. It wasn't about the color. It was about wearing something. It's about wearing something. But we made fun of it. Their speech was not exactly the speech that we have been accustomed to, because they were still talking in Hawaiian and then a little blend of here and there. So we call those things kuaina. But if you ask them about winds and rains and tides and la'au, they knew it. Isn't that where we're going now for our kids? Yes. That's where we're going. So what happened? We lost it, so they put us in the classroom. They put us in the classroom to teach what our ancestors already had that we forgot. We forgot it. And so somewhere along the line, somewhere in the middle, it says culture-based education. Wow, we go into it like a fly. We go there and say, yeah, culture-based education. And then we give them credit for it. But we don't think about it. Say, you know, our ancestors did it. We had it. Here's another verification. 97% could read and write in 8 years. 97% could read and write in 8 years. We were the most intelligent nation in the entire world. That's the only stats. We're a plus, plus, plus. 97% could read and write. What made it possible? What made it possible? Every man, every woman knew her role. I said, education was not a choice. education was not a choice. Ho'ike aku, ho'ike maika was not a choice. It was a way of life. It's a way of life. Somebody says, come on, give me an example. Give me an example. The three of us were taught pounding poi, to pound poi. If I didn't learn how to pound poi, what are the chances of my sons not learning to pound poi? Increases, right? My father's an abuser. Chances are I would become an abuser. My children would become abusers also. We know that. You don't need to do that. What would happen if I start producing more sons before 1876 that didn't know how to pound poi? Are you folks going to be pounding poi for me every week? They got to think about it. Which is where the dilemma is. They got to think about it. In the olden days, there would be no. The answer is no, they wouldn't pound for me. Why? Because every man has to learn his lesson. Every man must learn to pound poi. Must. It is not required. But not just the pounding of the poi, but all that comes with the pounding, to name all the names of the strokes of pounding, to name as many varieties. That's intellectual capacity now that we're talking about. The less we have with regard to intellectual capacity, how are we going to survive as a brilliant nation? How are we going to do it? That's what we're chasing now. We're chasing after that. We're going there, and we're having a hard time. We talk about the strength model. The strength model for us as professionals is that we need to have a full cup. We need to have a full cup. The strength model of a teacher in class is that when a youngster challenges you, is that if you feel threatened, maybe you need help on that. If you see a youngster challenging you, look for the golden thread in there. Because just think about the youngster who says, teacher, you're stupid. I turn my deficits into assets. I'm a poor speller. I'm a poor speller. And now, here's I turn it into an asset. I go up on the board when I'm working with youngsters, and I spell incorrectly. And sure enough, somebody said, hey, teacher, stupid, you don't know how to spell or what? Just think about the youngster who had to say that. He had to think about it, and then he had to develop the guts to say it. That's the silver lining. That's the silver lining. He thought about it, but everybody else in the room had the same thought, but no one had the guts to say it. That's a mark of a leader. It's a mark of the leader. What do we do in teacher classes? We write this booger up. We give them a pink slip. We send them down the stairs. An opportunity passed. An opportunity passed. Those are strength model. We are lacking in so many areas with regard to, as teachers. We are short. And institutions are not doing enough for our teachers. They're not doing enough for our teachers. Our teachers need more help. Our teachers need more help. Our families need help as well. We should be able to tell a story on Haloa to a preschooler and also tell that story at the master's level or PhD level. That's the range we should have. If we get in front of people, we should have the ability to converse. We should have the ability to take words and paint pictures. And our ancestors gave that to us. The words that they saved for us can paint a picture. Here's a quick example. I'm going to pick up this, my eyeglass case. I'm picking it up. It's a physical action. It's physical. It takes strength for me to pick it up. Our kupunas gave also the word pick up at a higher level, at a spiritual level, an intellectual. The word is called leha. 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 L-E-H-A. Leha. So, eleha ana iku maumaka ikalani. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills. So we know the story about the hills, right? Because we have Mauna Loa, Mauna Kea, Haleakala. When we look at those mountains, right, we know what's there. We know that it is powerful. We know it's powerful. We know that the spirits and the ancestors are there. So when we look on it, how do we look upon those mountains? We should look at it like this because the word tells us how we should look at that mountain. It should not be leha. It's deference. It's like God. It's like the princess. It's like the queen is here. You don't just look at the queen. Eleha aneko umaka. You slowly lift your eyes respectfully to the word. That's what's in the word leha. That's where we need to go. We can only go there if our cup is full. We can only go there if our cup is full. How do we get there? Ike, 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 train, train, train. I'm still learning.
We all are. Mahalo. Kupaya naha ka ike o kia poi. We learned so much, so many questions we want to ask. Do you have questions for any of our panelists? Oh, see?
Have a great day.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much for coming, and please give our mahalo to all of these people. We have so much to learn from them. They are all wonderful in what they do. Mahalo.